Hi, my name is Kyle Malone, and today we're going to be talking about how you can effectively budget your income. Okay, there are a lot of methods out there and how you can budget your money. The method we're going to talk about today is the 50-30-20 method. The 50-30-20 method is a great method because it's very simple, it's easy to understand, it's easy to implement, it's very beginner friendly, right? The thing about budgeting is a lot of it is mental, right? You have an idea of how you want to spend your money. You have an idea of what your life is going to look like. You have an idea of, hey, like, these are the things that I really, really want. And you might confuse them with needs, but you don't really need it, right? And then sometimes you have a lot of bills to pay. It becomes a lot, but there is a way you can simplify it, right? And we're going to talk about that way to simplify it today, right? So like I said, the method that we're going to be discussing is the 50-30-20 rule. It's very simple, and 50-30-20 means the following, right? 50% of your money that you get is going to be allocated towards paying for your needs, and your needs are bills. What are your bills? Number one, bills, right? Let's make like a subcategory, bills, right? So if you have a car, your car note, your car insurance, budget for gas, because you're gonna need gas, your phone bill, rent, cable, internet bill, those monthly recurring bills. Actually, we won't even get to gas yet because that's not like a recurring bill. That's a variable. That expense varies from week to week or month to month. But your recurring bills that you're responsible for paying somebody else for, like, that's what we're talking about right now. That's what you're budgeting 50% for. So 50% of your money is going to be allocated towards paying your monthly recurring bills that you have to pay somebody else for, right? They're going to be expecting that money every single month or every single quarter, every single year, whatever, right? You're saving that money for that. That's 50% of your money. Okay? 20% is for savings and financial goals. Right, we're all familiar with savings, that emergency fund, investing for retirement, right, things like that, the regular savings, and then investing. I recently just made a video about investing apps for beginners. If you want to get started in investing, I encourage you to look at that video and see how you can get started in your investing journey if you haven't. Or even if you've been doing it for a while, I think that video could still be helpful for you. Okay, so yeah, 20% is for just saving and investing, right? And then the final 30%, so that's 70%. Like I said, 50 for bills, 20 for savings and investing, and 30 is for your wants, right? I understand that people don't want to just sit in the house all day, or they don't want to just live in a box, you know, they don't want to just spend, they don't want to just save all their money and invest all their money and spend on the only money that they're spending is on their bills. I understand that people want to live their lives, right? So 30% is a good number. I think it's a fair number considering the typical financial situation for adults. 30% is for just wants. If you want to go and buy whatever food you want to go and to the movies or whatever, like, right? I will also, like, I know I mentioned that an expense like gas, like how much money you spend on gas, right? You can make an argument that could go in wants, but you could also make an argument that it could go in needs, because like I said, it's like, yes, you need gas because you have to get to work, you have to pick up your kids from school or something like that. But also at the same time, you use your car for other things that you don't really need to do. Like I said, going out to a restaurant, or sometimes you might just go joyriding, right? So I would encourage people to kind of, I don't want to make it too complicated for a beginner, right? But like I said, just keep in mind that like there's those kind of funny expenses, even food itself, right? Like food, like how much money do you really need to spend on food, right? Like yes, you need food, but how much money do you really need to spend on food? Like it's not like a fixed expense. Like, okay, I know Charter is expecting $125 from me every single month, right? Like it's not really that. It can be that simple, but for a lot of people, that's not really how it goes, right? So, like I said, it's expenses like paying for gas, buying food, or I don't know, like you could even make an argument for like a professional who says like, hey, like I need to go to work in a nice shirt or something like that, or I need to get a haircut because staying well groomed is very important for my job. And it's kind of like I said, I see how these expenses can be very important, but do you need them or do you want them, right? And I feel like I would leave that up to you, but consider that when you're budgeting, right? I think it's important to consider those kind of funny expenses when you're budgeting, okay? Yeah, so if you struggle with overspending on wants, like we talked about, set aside a specific amount of cash for certain categories. Like I said, we talked about gas, right? Just set aside, let's say, and I know gas prices are really high right now, but just set aside, say, hey, if I only went to work and came back home and picked up my kids from school and came back home, did the things that I must do, how much money will it cost me to do that, right? And then maybe you do the calculation, you can put that in the need category, right? And then you give yourself a little cushion and say, okay, that extra $20 I spend on gas a month, that's more like wants, you know, I got stressed out, I went on a joyride, etc. Just be very conscious about how you allocate your money, right? Okay. So another thing that you can do is set up a system where your money gets allocated to different accounts, right? We all know about a checking account and we all know about a savings account, but don't assume that you can't open an extra checking account, right? Or an extra savings account, right? So you can have a checking account, like I said, for those needs, those fixed bills that you have, right? Every month or every couple months, you know this bill is going to come, and it's to the point where I know I talked about this in the last video. A lot of companies, they have an automatic payment system. Put your money that is going to be for those allocated payments, right? Have a checking account for that. Then you can have a checking account for your wants, right? That money that, you know, you can do whatever you want. And then you have a savings account for those investments and just that emergency fund, right? And I'll make another video about how to go about choosing savings accounts and how to go about choosing checkings accounts, which banks you should choose and why you should do that. I'll get into that in another video. But just to get into the savings account just a little bit, one thing you do want to consider when you're choosing a savings account is the interest that you'll get on your savings. Is often around 0.01%, but there are ways that you can get other checkings account. And like I said, just because you have your money sitting in there, you can get money paid to you. You can earn money just by having your money sitting in there, not doing anything, right? And that's what it's gonna do because it's an emergency fund. So, like I said, we'll talk about that in another video. So, I want to go over some quick win strategies to cut your expenses, right? Don't try to slash your lifestyle overnight. When I make these videos, a big thing for me is being realistic, right? I understand that you're not going to just change your lifestyle overnight. It's a process, you know, and I try to do my part in working with you and to help you and be realistic in the advice that I give you all, right? But you want to target what we'll call the invisible leaks first, right? So, like we talked about, making sure you know all your bills, where your money is going. Check your credit card, check your debit card history, and audit your subscriptions. This is very important these days because there are so many different products and services you can subscribe to, right? Use an app to audit your statement, to cancel apps, streaming services, memberships that you really don't use, right? If you and the rule is you like, I don't really know if I want to cancel that subscription or not. Let's just say a rule: if you haven't used it in the past 45 to 60 days, just go ahead and cancel it, right? Okay, and then another tip you can do to cut expenses is what we'll call the 48-hour rule for online shopping, right? When you want to buy a non-essential item, which is going to be in the wants category, that 30%, force yourself to leave it in the cart for 48 hours, right? If you still want it 2 days later, buy it. But a lot of the times the impulse will be gone, right? I think this is a good rule because, impulsive buying is a huge thing. Nowadays you see these deals, they say act now, you can get this % off and things like that. So impulse buying is a big thing. And yeah, you're getting a deal on that, but you're still spending money, so that's important to consider, right? So yeah, you want to eliminate impulse buying, right? That's what that's about. Okay, and a very big one for a lot of people, including myself, is cook more meals at home, right? Eating out, it costs a lot of money to eat out, and especially if you're doing it all the time. And at one point I was living downtown, I was living in the city, I was ordering Uber Eats or Instacart or DoorDash. I was doing that like every day, multiple times a day, every other day, multiple times. Like that money adds up, and that's the biggest thing you want to think about when you're spending money. Like it's like, okay, you might go to Taco Bell and you say, oh, I only spent $15, but it's like the very popular saying, it's like death by 1,000 small cuts, right? It's like a little 15 here, it's not a big deal. It's a little $7 here, and then you had to do something a little bit more important, so you spent like $75 or $50 there. That one caught your attention a little bit, but it didn't really mean anything. But when you put that all together, you gonna spend like a couple $100 in like a week if you're not really budgeting, if you're not really being mindful about how you're spending your money, right? So it's important to do your best and try and cutting the expenses, right? Go grocery shopping, right? Get those essential items, like, for a lot of people who work out, they keep it really simple. They get some fruit that they like, they get some frozen vegetables, they'll get a meat, they already got all the seasonings that they want in the cabinet, and then they do something where, they cook something up for a week. Like say, for example, my brother, he'll make like a big old pot of spaghetti, and it's really good, and he does that to make it last. He'll make it last. You can just throw a little something on the side with that, right? You can buy some fish or buy some chicken, and who knows, that could last you so long. Right? So cooking at home is another thing that you could do to help you cut those just not necessary expenses. Even though they're in the wants category, you can still do your part in trying to lower that money, because who knows, right? You may say, hey, I saved this money, I feel like putting it towards my savings or investing. Or you might say, hey, I got another bill now, like this money that I've been cutting my wants for, I can put towards this new bill that I want to get, right? So okay, so that's that, and that'll be all. I hope this video was helpful. Like I said, create the different checkings accounts, the savings account, make sure you're cutting your expenses, and 50, 30, 20, okay? That's how you can budget your money. I hope this video was helpful. Have a good one.